Hello, LifePoint. My name is Mark Riggins, and I'm the senior pastor here. And I just wanted to, first of all, wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving. In fact, I hope that this week that you and your family have an opportunity to really experience God's peace and have a moment to express gratitude for all of His blessings to you and your family. I wanted to let you know about the special day that we have coming up on December the 5th. In fact, it's a special day as we kick off the Christmas season here at LifePoint. We're going to have snow. There are going to be epic snowball fights for the kids and for students. We're going to kick off a brand new series, and I hope that you not only will come, but that you'll bring a friend with you on December the 5th. And finally, I just wanted to let you know that last Sunday, we gave an update for the new season here at LifePoint Church as we make plans to establish a second campus. And so for all those details, I hope you'll watch this video. Do a quick little update on where we are as a church. And just know, as PG and I were talking this week, we were reminded, man, when this church began in 1989, and as we stand here in 2021, we echo the words of Paul, and we say our goal, our premier purpose is simply this. We want to reach more people for Jesus. And we want to do that with everything that we have for the rest of our lives. And you may remember that back in May, I, along with the board, stood up here and said that we believe God had green-lighted. In fact, there was unanimous consensus among the leadership and board that we felt compelled to establish a second campus for God's glory, that we believed that God was leading us to expand LifePoint Church into season number 2. And over the last 6 months, without a doubt, this is the most common question that I have received. Mark, what's the latest with the second campus? It's an appropriate question, right? And we've tried to give updates along the way, but at the same time, there has been a lot happening, as you can imagine, behind the scenes. And so I just want to share today what I believe are 3 miracles that have been happening in 2021 when it comes to the next season at LifePoint Church. The first miracle is simply the fact that God has opened an unexpected door. You may remember that we shared back in May that as a church we never listed the property, we never talked to a broker, and we weren't on anyone's list. And yet a charter school approached us and said, we not only would like to purchase the property, but we would also like to then do a long-term lease back and allow you to continue your ministry right here in Plano. We believe miracle number 1. Miracle number 2, I'll tell you about in a second, but as you know, in order to get from the idea of this kind of transaction to the reality, there's a contract that needs to be in place. And the precursor to the contract is an LOI, or a letter of intent, which is kind of a term sheet that sets the big picture parameters for the contract. And that brings us to miracle number 2. It is the timing of the LOI. And you may remember we were anticipating an LOI for some time. And in, we believe, God's providence, it never quite crossed the finish line. And the last 7 weeks, we have been praying as a church. And in the middle of those 7-week period, we actually stopped and we prayed and fasted. We were fasting as a church. And it's during that time that the LOI shows up, completed, finished, crossing the finish line, and executed. And I believe, if we believe God is in charge and He is leading us, that those 2 things are not a coincidence. The timing of the LOI, I believe, is miraculous. And here's why we also believe that turned out to be a blessing in disguise. And that brings us to miracle number 3, the sale price. Because of the delay, one of the benefits that we had along the way was to have an updated appraisal of the property. And that actually was in our benefit. And it turns out that because of the delay in the LOI, that God blessed, and we were essentially able to agree upon the full appraisal amount in the sale of the church. It turns out that was a blessing in disguise. Amen. Now, a lot of us are going to be asking, so what about this campus? What does that look like, and what does that mean going forward? What, in other words, the Plano campus, how does that look, and what does the timeline look like? And again, to be completely transparent, a lot of this is based on what we know now
And based on what we know now, we will begin to share this campus in the fall of 2023. That's when we in the school would begin to have a mutual partnership on this property. Now, there will be, in 2022, most likely some construction that will be going on in preparing the property for them to partner with us, but none of the ministries will be interrupted, and in the fall of 2023, we would begin to share the campus. Now, the other piece of this is, what does it look like going forward in the Plano campus? And that is one of the things that we are so excited about, how God has worked this out, because we are experiencing with our relationship with them a long-term lease back in sharing this campus. Here's the bottom line. We're going to get to keep doing church right here for a long time, serving Plano, ministering to this area, and reaching people for Jesus and for God's glory. Now, what it also means is, in season 2, we will also become one church in 2 locations. And then that begins the question, well, then where will the second location be? And so the second location, one thing we do know is we have a relationship with a commercial realtor who's helping us look, and we are looking to the north because that is where we are witnessing so many young families go at a staggering rate. And so we believe that's where God is going to enable us to reach the most people for Jesus. And to be truthful, I am reminded of PG as we talked again this week, what happened in 1989 when many of you came to this very location, and this was as far north as the Metroplex went, right? Like there wasn't anything further north in 1989. And yet you saw what God was doing in the young families that were coming here, that there would be a spiritual need. And God used your faith, your step of faith to come here to reach thousands of people for Jesus. And now in season 2, we want to begin with that same approach to simply have a place north of here, a location that would be more attractive for these young families. So then the question is, okay, what kind of building are we looking for? What kind of facility are we planning with the next location? The truth is there are really 2 kinds of approaches that you can have. You can either have a new building with a new build, or you can renovate an existing facility. One, obviously, price point is very different from the other. And based on what we know now, we're leaning more toward the renovate of an existing facility, but we're anticipating and open to what God is going to reveal. But here is our commitment at the end of the day, is we want to create and establish a facility where people will be excited to bring their families and friends because we want to reach more people for Jesus. That is, the end of the day, our goal. So here's what I know. You have a lot of questions. So do I. To be continued. I know that's unsatisfying. I'm with you. But here's what we can be doing in the meantime. In the meantime, while we wait, while we anticipate what God is doing, what He is clearly leading us forward with, I want to give you 3 points of prayer that I would just invite you to begin personally. Number 1, would you begin to pray for a long-term mutually beneficial relationship between LifePoint and the charter school? We want this to be a great experience for everyone involved, and we believe God's favor is already on that relationship, but we want that to continue for His glory. So would you pray with us toward that end? Number 2, would you pray that God would go ahead and show us the second location where we can reach more people for Jesus? That is our desire. And we know He has a plan in place, and I can't wait till He shows us. And then number 3, and this is where it's very personal, I would ask you to, what role do you want me to play, God, in your church in this next season? You see, this is where we get to go from being a spectator to being a participant in this global story, in this eternal story.